I think the enemy wants you to think that you don't have enough of stuff. David not only said that it was God who gave you Canaan, that's the promised land. We're not talking about land, we're talking about the lives God has given us. The lives. You are living in what God has given you. That's the difference between me and the person who says, I'm a self-made man. I don't claim that. Everything I have got is the result of something God gave me. Everything. Everything. So I don't want to apologize for it, but I don't want to be proud about it because God gave it to me. You are living in something that was given. And if you don't believe that, you will be prideful. And if you believe that, if you don't believe that long enough, you'll be powerless because you'll lean on your own understanding, because you will say Jesus is Lord, but you will live like logic is Lord. And you'll always be counting. We only have 5. We only have 2. This won't go so far. It's too few. It's too few. I've been studying the Bible for over half my life seriously, to teach it, not just to learn it. And I've been studying the Bible over half my life, not just to preach it, but to live it. One thing I found out in the Bible is that generally speaking, you can find some exceptions, but as a general principle, listen to this. God never looks at your life and says, I can't do it because you have too few of anything. God never looks at people. He never, I can't find in the Bible very many times. There are a few. But this is one of those cases where the exception proves the rule. That mostly the Bible is about a 75-year-old man named Abraham who became a great nation. When you're 75, you only have a few years left. When you're, I could go on and on with this, y'all. When you're making a plan to save the world and you start at 30 and you're going to the cross, why didn't Jesus die at age 75? Why did he do everything that he was sent to do in 3 years? Even better, why didn't he run a big campaign so he could get a big number of disciples so he could have a lot of followers? If he's leaving, why did he spend so much time with 12 men and one of them was Judas? Why did he do it in 3 years with 12 men and change the world? Maybe he wanted to set the model so you could see what he can do through a few. Because he knew, listen, he knew that you would be in this situation in life and you'd be saying, I don't have enough. I don't know enough. I don't have enough. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough talent. I don't have a big enough team. That song, I got a really big team. I didn't make that song. I have a really small team. In fact, some of you are here today being like, I have nobody. And that's not true. But the enemy always seeks to diminish what you've been given. That's his strategy over and over. And how many times will he do it? As many times as you'll believe it. He'll take what you have given and diminish it and shrink it and diminish it and shrink it until you can't focus on it, until all you see in your life is what others carry. Until all you see in your life is the things you don't have, until you forget the few that you do. I want to preach to you today about the few that you do have. If that's finances, I'm talking about the few dollars you have. If that's years that you have with your kids left in the house, I want to speak about the few that you do have. If that's friends that you have who really love you, really believe in you, I want to talk about the few that you do have. If that's the things that you're good at versus the things that you're not, I want to talk about the few that you do have. That's why God used David. He knew what to do with the few. Do you? Are you always waiting for something else? More. God, give me more wisdom. And sometimes God says, the problem is not that you have too few. You got too much. You got too much. God, give me more wisdom, more wisdom, more wisdom. God said the problem isn't the absence of wisdom. The problem is that you have too many opinions. Sometimes you have too much information. God, I just need to know more than I can do it. No, you don't need to know more. I had somebody leave at church one time. They said, I knew all that today before I came. Some of y'all are here like, I knew all about the Ark of the Covenant. You didn't even get to the good part about the tabernacle that they made for it. That was awesome. You can talk about Obed-Edom when you got Obed-Edom's house. He was blessed and brought back down. You can talk about that. That was good. I knew all that. You knew it already, but do you do it already? It's what you do with the few. I learned this over and over and over and over again, that sometimes I had more faith with the few than I have with more. What's that about? As few went to many, faith went from big to little. What's that about? Because I start dependent on the cart. I think I need more. So I'm just challenging you this week to take what David said to your own heart when he said that God gave it to them. Look at verse 19 again. I gave them so many scriptures today. Yo, my fear in preaching is running out of stuff. So you should see all the scriptures we don't get to. It would give you heart palpitations to know what all they're looking through back there. Because the last thing I want to get up here is 15 minutes in and go, and I guess So I'm always thinking that I don't have enough to say. Sometimes my biggest mistake in preaching is I try to say too much. I do too much. It's the Ark of the Covenant, it's the book of Revelation, and it's the temple of Dagon. And you're like, whoa, I just had my first cup of coffee. See, it could be just as bad to do too much. Here's David, from a shepherd to a king. And what does he go back to? Verse 19. He said, God spoke it when they were but, what's the word? Few. But few. And then he emphasizes it. Watch this. Few indeed. Just in case you think he's overstating it. He's like, nah, it was nothing but Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and the patriarchs. And God did all this out of that. Don't get it twisted to think that I'm so great as a king. David said, no. He did it when they were but few, so he could prove that he was faithful, and he couldn't prove that he was faithful if he didn't do it through a few. If he did it through a lot, you would consult the lot of your logic and the lot of your resources. So God has you in a season right now where he is stripping away some things and subtracting some things, and some people are leaving, and some things are disappearing, and some certainties are evaporating, and some things you depended on all your life are no longer able to hold you up. So God can show you what he can do through a few. It is almost like Gideon in the Old Testament, where he had 32,000 warriors. And the Lord said, I can't use you yet to deliver my people. Look at Judges 7:2. Why? Because you're not strong enough. Why? Because you're not smart enough. Why? Because you're not experienced enough. No. He said, you have too many. So why are you praying about too few when God is talking about too many? God said, take them down to the water. I'll thin them out. I'll send home who needs to be sent home, and you'll deliver the people with 300 men. I'm not good at math, but that's backwards. I went from 32,000 to 300, and it feels bad to go backwards. And you've been going backwards, and you've been feeling bad about it. But praise the Lord, because praise paves a way for the provision of God to be revealed in your life through the few. Through the few. Say it. Through the few. Through the few. I don't have that much. You don't need that much. You don't need what you think you need. I promise you, I promise you, you don't need what you think you need to do what God has called you to do. Because if you needed what you think you need to do what God had called you to do, and he's the one who called you to do it, he would have given you what you think you need to do what he's called you to do, because he's the one who called you to do it. He doesn't promise stuff that he doesn't provide for. Oh, if I was more even-tempered. No. You need a little bit of that. All right? We're going to subdue it and submit it, and we're going to train it to the Holy Spirit, but you need some of that. You're going to get some self-control, but you need some of that. Oh, if I could do this, if I could do that, if I could be more like this. I went to, when I first went to Shelby, I went to a music director. This guy was a legend. He was the best musician that at that point in my life I had ever met. He played in studios. He played on people's albums. And here I was asking him to come be my keyboard player at a church of just a few hundred people, just a few hundred. Everybody around me told him he won't do it. He doesn't need to be on some church band. He won't play on a church stage. I said, well, let me just go talk to him. And I said, I know that you probably won't do it. You know, by the way, you'll never get a date if you come up with this kind of confidence. I was like, I know you probably don't want to do it. I know you probably. But before I finished, he said, yeah, I'll do it. I said, I can only pay you this much. And it was just a few. I was going to pay him for a week what he could get in an hour. He said, I'll do it. I've been praying about that. I said, oh, okay. So I started doing it. Every week, I'd go over to his house, and it was such a trip, y'all, because I would teach him the songs. Now, let me explain to you. I don't have much musical training, just the chords I learned on my guitar when I was a boy, and that's it. Now, I know those 4 chords really well, but I learned to play guitar off Green Day, Not Bach, Hootie, and the Blowfish. That's how I learned to play guitar. But I know what I know. So I'd go over to his house. He had a little studio in his house. And I would sit down with him. His name was Richard. Still is Richard. But I'd sit down with Richard and I'd take the little chord charts over. I said, let's go over these songs for the week. Not because he needed to learn them, just we were getting it all charted out and he would chart it for me and everything. I would always apologize to him. I always felt bad because he's such a great musician. I mean, he knows jazz, he knows rock, he knows country. He can play anything by ear or by sight. And here I am with a G and a C and a D and an A, and that's the whole song. And I say, I'm so sorry, Richard. I know this is so simple. This is so stupid. Me sitting here, a great musician like you. I don't even know all the chords that you know. And one day he stopped me. He said, Stephen, stop thinking. Everybody I impersonate has a country accent, right? Stephen. He said, you don't need to know more chords. You know the right 4. And then he gave me a tutorial. he started playing songs with the 4 chords that I used over and over again. And he showed me at least 20 songs that used those 4 chords only. And every time he would do it, it would drive the message home a little bit more. You only need 4. You only need 4. Then he'd play it again. It was just a 1, 5, 6, 4. That's the notation, the Nashville number system, right? It's the 1, the 5, the 6, and the 4. And he showed me with those 4 chords, you can write a number 1 hit. It's not how many chords you know. It's how you use the ones you know. Hey, I'm not preaching to everybody today. Just a few. Just a few that have been going around saying, God, I don't know enough. I don't have enough. I haven't been trained enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not sleeping enough. That must be a parent of a newborn or a dog. God, I don't have enough. And Richard showed me, you only need 4 chords. You only need 4. I'll prove it. When God got ready to turn on the lights of the solar system, he said 4 words, let there be light. 4 words and the lights came on. 4 words and the world was illuminated. 4 words and the darkness had to back up. You only need 4. You only need 4.